Massimo invited me to do a brochure, and I came up with the idea, our furniture is ready before your office is even finished, which I thought was a pretty good idea. Massimo liked the idea. I didn't know at the time that Massimo suffered terribly from acrophobia. This is on the 32nd floor of an unfinished skyscraper, and we trundled up in this outside elevator system. Poor Massimo was sort of shaking. And after that ride in the elevator, the interesting thing happened to me was that Massimo seemed to prefer me to go off and take my own pictures. Don't know why, but he didn't trust me. In any event, he said, you take beautiful pictures, bring them back, and I'll design the brochure. So that's really how we worked together.
The difficulty with working with Massimo was that you had to be really succinct in those first 2-3 sentences that you said, because he would instantly start designing. And if you misspoke, he would, be done. And you just said, that isn't what I would meant. But he rarely backed up. So it was always this kind of tricky, get your head in the right place before you start talking situation.
And then, did you ever work with Massimo yourself, or you had gone off
Never
on your
did.
own?
But I have to say that after Massimo, Knoll never looked the same.
And how do you mean that? Give us.
Well,
for
remember
instance.
Massimo made fun of Herbert's K. He said that circus, the big serifs. And that's all I can remember Massimo saying about Knoll, was that he didn't like that K. But he introduced Helvetica, and he introduced a huge amount of interesting stuff. And you mentioned the tabloids. They were, it was like a company newspaper, but printed on newsprint. There's a whole new feeling about what you could do with design.
I was very struck by John's presentation, because I remember Massimo spoke at my college and showed all that Knoll work, and being struck by the ingenuity and actually boldness of representing, Dick's leisure collection on the cover. You would never do this today, but on the cover of that brochure, not a chair, not a portrait of the designer, but instead just a canopy of leaves.
Yes,
What
foliage.
you would see if you were reclining in that chair as you looked up. How great, and indeed existential and experiential and perfect, right? And the audacity of selling, neatly stacking chairs by photographing stacked stuff in a junkyard. I learned that Massimo, and people, Yoshi and Beatrice, other people who know Massimo, I think would corroborate this. Massimo wasn't the kind of guy who came up with clever ideas for photographs like that. He just was an appreciator and a cheerleader of those things, and could make those things sing when they were given to him. Mm-hmm. And indeed, I know designers who spend hours leaning over photographers' shoulders, making minute adjustments to the light, and then going on press checks with printers to make sure everything's perfect. Massimo would just say, I work with the best people, and I know they're going to do a great job.
I always saw Shoe Knoll as an editor. And I think that's what you're describing with Massimo. The way, this is the important thing to run an office, to have somebody who knows what good is.
He had the ability to make simple things seem like magic. So the same way that a sleight of hand artist does these simple things and you can't figure out, it's a simple grid and a simple thing, and it just all lines up, and then suddenly turns into this amazing thing, and you can't quite figure out how he did it, And although he would publish, he was explicit about the rules, the ingredient that actually made his design special were something that he alone could bring to it somehow.
He was infectious in his communication
yeah.
to everybody about everything.
Yeah.
I did use the word earlier, magic,
Yeah.
and I really meant that. He had that quality